You are listening to Ace Comicals. My name's Greg. Today I'm joined by my co-host Leon. Let's get started. Hi guys, it's number 16. I'm back and I'm literally drowning in comics right now. I've been away for 2 weeks on holiday in Hungary and I've come back to a enormous stack of comics. So I have no hope of getting through these before the next NBCD either. So NCB, New Comic Book Day, NCBD. Yeah, I have no hope of getting through these before the next NCBD. And I've come back to a post-apocalyptic comicocracy, if you can say that word, if that is a word.
You can now.
Yeah. So joining me today, it's just Leon. It's Rahul's turn to go off and have a break. So, yeah, I mean, we've still got plenty to talk about. I think we both still managed to get plenty of reading in. I got some holiday reading in. And Leon's had a busy weekend too, I hear.
Yeah, I was off at what feels like annual summer convention for general nerdery. It was a weekend. It was a fun weekend. Nothing real to report there.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I didn't go this year, but I usually go. It's just a general get-together of geeks and nerds and people that love things that are sci-fi and comic booky and Japanese animation-y and anime and all that kind of stuff.
That's sort of where they started off. They were events in appreciation for that when that was in short supply. But now it's just the way everyone is. They've become more general geekery fests.
It's evolved into a general celebration of all things nerdy, which we
this one is generally just an excuse to hang out with mates who live all over the country. But
what better way to do it, I guess.
All huddled onto a university campus.
So where do I start? The first thing I want to do is I want to rescind my comments about the war of jokes and riddles, because this is the recent Batman arc that's currently ongoing, and that is because it's actually knocking it out of the park right now.
So you've been converted straight away?
Well, it's like, I think we're 4 issues in now, but there's been 2 really good comics within this arc so far, but both of them really great concepts that have sort of made me think, okay, that. And
so to refresh the audience's memories, what is all this?
Okay, so in a video on the Ace Comicals YouTube channel, I turned around and said that it wasn't this arc wasn't doing it for me. I was a little bit let down by it. I was expecting something better, bigger, maybe I was just a little bit deflated. Maybe I expected too much. The War of Jokes and Riddles is an arc concerning the Riddler versus the Joker in the early days of Batman fighting over Gotham City. And all the other members of Batman's Rogue Gallery have taken sides, and it's just Gotham City is no man's land, and it's just all-out war between the 2 supervillains. Now, the reason I'm saying it's knocking it out of the park is because this most recent issue, which was Batman number 29, deals with Bruce Wayne inviting the Riddler and the Joker over to dinner. To sit at his table and try and talk out their differences, and to try and decide, basically to try and settle things, because the city's been torn apart, and Batman he's thinking now, okay, so I invite them as Bruce Wayne, because obviously they don't know his identity or anything at this point. And I tried to sort this out using money, and he basically what he's looking for is he's looking for a way in. He's using this dinner setting as a way to get a measure of the two guys, the Riddler and the Joker, and to try and figure out which way, because Batman's going to try and push the war one way or the other in order to end it, and he's going to obviously do his usual Batman thing and be awesome about it. But the way the comic is laid out, the way it's set out, it deals with it course by course. So, as Alfred brings the courses in, all of Batman's Rogues Gallery are in Wayne Manor eating dinner.
That sounds cool.
Yeah,
that reminds me of Brian Fuller's Hannibal series.
Yeah, it's like a huge dinner table conversation basically, and about like their motivations and things like that, and how they perceive each other and so forth. It's really really good actually. I'm really impressed with this one. So yeah, and the other one that knocked it out of the park was there was a comic concerning the origin of Kite Man, the tragic origin of Kite Man, which was. So
I'm not too familiar with Kite Man.
Yeah, not many people are. He's a bit of a B-lister, but yeah, they really do some nice stuff with it in this story. I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, I rescind my previous comments.
Well, it's always nice when that happens.
I know. And you know what? This might be something that I go out and buy the trade of, even though I've got the actual comics. When it's finished, I might go and grab the trade, because it's probably a nice trade to have, to be honest. The other thing that I think is currently knocking it out of the park is obviously TMNT Dimension X. On the Twitter account recently, I don't know if you saw this on my Twitter account, there was I think a Limp Bizkit reference in one of the TMNT comics.
What?
Something that Raph says in one panel, and
I definitely missed this.
Yeah, I got a little bit excited about it, because Limp Bizkit is cheese, and I quite like my cheesy music sometimes. So, but yeah.
What was the reference? Because I was probably trying to avoid Game of Thrones spoilers. At the time.
Leo says something like "on to the next planet," and Raph responds with "Yeah, keep rolling."
Oh.
But yeah, I was yeah, I'm impressed with TMNT Dimension X. It's great fun, it really is. As Turtles comics always are, they managed to keep the balance really well between fun and serious drama-y type stuff. So I'm always it's good escapism basically, which is what we're all looking for when we read comics. My holiday reading was Madman. I don't know if you're familiar with Madman at all.
No,
That's the Image run of Madman, which it was the inspiration for Freakazoid.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
See, if I'd seen an Image, then I would have been like, yes, but yeah, the name escaped me. But yeah, I've never read any, but I've always been aware of.
Yeah, it's the creator of this particular character is a man named Mike Allred, who is currently working on Silver Surfer comics for Marvel, which is you can really see it. It's this it's the sort of the really trippy, because Madman is very trippy as well, but it's this trippy cosmic story about this guy who was killed and then resurrected, and all the weird science and kind of 60s-esque trippy sci-fi that goes with it.
Yeah.
It's got that real kind of like surfer vibe about it as well, like this kind of like hippie surfer vibe, and I really really enjoy it. I like the kind of chilled out, the fact that I can just switch my brain off and read this stuff, and it's great for that. I mean, obviously it when I say switch my brain off, I mean it's relaxing to read trippy sci-fi, not as in you don't think about it, because you do think, and you do start to sort of see layers in it and things like, and it's really cool, but it's a good thing to kind of just kick back and just like let it blow over. So it's great holiday reading. It's a trip for a trip, as I've already said. But yeah, and the Silver Surfer comics, the current Silver Surfer comics, are much in the same vein, and I really am enjoying those as well. So yeah, Mike Allred. Now, on to what we've actually been reading. We've both been reading that we're going to discuss for this episode.
So when did you get back? You got back Sunday.
I got back Saturday night.
Saturday night,
yeah.
And you've already read a bunch.
Yeah. That was Sunday's job. My dear mother, bless her, collected my comics for me for the 2 weeks that I was on holiday.
Oh.
So I sort of set her a mission, and I sent her the money. When I got back, I was like, look, would you mind helping me out a little bit here, because I don't know what's on my pull list anymore. I don't know what I'm going to miss, if it's, whether it will still be on the stands when I get back or not. So can you please go and collect my comics for me while I'm on holiday, and when I get back we'll sort it out. And she's like, yeah, that's cool, I'll do that for you. So thanks, Mum.
See, that's love, man.
Yeah, that right there is what mums do. It's what mums are for. No, no, but yeah, she was really good of her to collect my comics for me, bless her. So I came back, and I picked up my comics off my mum, collected them off her, and got to reading them basically as soon as I could, because I knew I'd need them for this. So the first one that I was excited about, that I'd been hankering to read the whole time I was away, was Dark Knight's Metal. And that
can you give a bit of background on this? Where's it come from?
Right. So, where do I start? This stuff has been brewing and hinted at and set up in Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, the two guys that were writing the Batman New 52 run. Okay, so they've been setting this up since then, with little bits and pieces, little breadcrumbs that they've placed in different arcs within Batman New 52, and it's to do with immortality and various unearthly metals, and all of this pointing the way to an alternate dimension. More than an alternate dimension, a collection of alternate dimensions, if that's the best way to describe it. A dark multiverse.
Yeah, so the standard multiverse is the 52, isn't it? And
yeah,
this is another set.
This is the Dark 52, yeah. So this is Upside Down Land.
This is DC being super DC.
Yeah. This is DC going, how can we take DC and photocopy it? And yeah, they
DC AF, that's what it is.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So it's just all out typical comic book madness right here. It's a stew pot of really good ideas, I think, actually. I quite like this idea that this has been something that's been happening since the dawn of time, that there were tribes of people built around the heroes that we see now, and it's all to do with nth metal, which, if you're familiar with DC, nth metal plays a big role in various comics, and it's like a thing. And it's got a lot to do with Hawkman, and it's very Batman centric, which is, I think, what I enjoy most about it. It deals with the fact that there's this dark multiverse, and the Dark Knights from this dark multiverse are planning an invasion, and they're making their way forward. And Batman seemed to know something about this, but in his usual Batman way was being very, very secretive about it, and messing with things that he probably shouldn't mess around with, and trying to take on too much by himself. And I think he's ended up making a mess, and now I think it's going to be his job to try and clean it up, which I quite like the idea of. So yeah, I'm excited about this. I'm excited to see the Dark Knights that DC have been advertising in action. It seems to be evil versions of Batman with powers of various members of the Justice League, and one very special Dark Knight who is the Batman. It's called the Batman Who Laughs, who appears to be a kind of Joker Batman amalgam. But when you look at the picture that's been released, which I'll probably include with this podcast because it's a really cool picture, but the picture of him that's been released, and he's holding a tarot card for death, and the design itself, it's got a very like Judge Death look about him. Judge Death from the 2000 AD Judge Dredd comics, who's like the kind of like dark version of Judge Dredd, basically, because there were the dark judges who were kind of based on the Four Horsemen and at the same time not based on the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. But it's got that kind of feel about it. And I'm excited to see where it goes and how it pans out, and the ideas that Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo have, because those two are probably two of my favourites, and when they work together very well. They have this fantastic synergy, and they were what they made the New 52 Batman what it was, and that was probably one of my favourite runs. So it's some of my favourite arcs, actually, New 52 Batman.
Yeah, you speak quite highly of them.
I do, yeah. I'm of the classic. I mean, I love my classic Batman stuff as well, but the New 52 Batman, I think, for me, was something that I really enjoyed. So these two are a great team, and any output from them is well received, I think, by me at least. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So what did you make of it?
Well, yeah, this is I mean, every comic I've ever read for this episode has been off your recommendation, as is normally the case. But yeah, I read this off there because you know me, like, yeah, I do love my my superhero comics, but I really bounced off them. And then I only really started to enjoy either the classics or the stuff that it's like one-shots and like classic trades or graphic novels where it's just one like storyline which isn't always canon that explores an element of the character. And a big chunk of that is because I hate all the background and story. I know they reset the universes constantly, but it's just always a hassle where like issue 2 of the new run and they're already referring to like a million things that have happened. So it's generally why, unless I hear something amazing, I generally stay away, and especially for like big event arcs, crossover arcs, I'm usually just not as interested. Yeah. But when you were like sharing the artwork about for some of the stuff like couple of weeks ago, and the idea of it did seem quite interesting, so that's why out of the recommendations this is one I thought like, yeah, let me give it a go, let me see what's going on there, be part of the zeitgeist for once. And I quite like it. I mean, some of the issues that I have with some of these things is that there's this weird, it sounds silly to explain it for like a superhero comic book, but there's this weird sort of wall of artifice I find sometimes, and there's that there's like a barrier there, and it's not a barrier that they're speaking about in jargon about powers and stuff like that. It's not really that, because like for each thing I'm willing to jump into that world and take it on its own terms. It's not usually that, but it's usually there's this whole thing usually to do with history, but it's often just this annoying sort of bulk, this weight of just nonsense that I have to sort of sift through before I get to the cool stuff. Yeah. And I don't remember having to do that as much when I was younger. But with this book, it is a really good starter. I really love the in media res start with the Colosseum stuff. It properly like wrong-footed me. I was thinking, when does the Batman Who Laughs appears with all this? But instead, it's just a cool setup, and it did remind me of some of my favorite things from older Justice League comics, and even like the Justice League, the Bruce Timm Justice League cartoons. Where like it's the superheroes hanging out together, and in a what's the conundrum of the week, and I like that it starts off that way because it sets a precedent for their trust and sort of camaraderie. And I always have a soft spot for the Justice League hanging out together and calling each other Bruce and Clark and Diana. I always get a kick out of that.
Yeah,
don't think that will stop.
Even with the masks on.
Yeah.
So what I don't understand is, like, you're in public, you're shouting Bruce across the rooftops.
But it does feel like pretty much everyone knows it,
I know.
in this comic anyway.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a cool start. I really liked the Voltron style robotic monsters.
Oh,
I thought that was a cool thing.
Just
and
as
again,
mecha.
Yeah, just as mecha. And the thing is, that's only like the cold open, so I thought that was cool. But yeah, I really like the idea of them going back and so I love things where you've been with characters for a while, and again, it's Leon about to make a TV reference to comics like he always does, but you get to season 5 of a show, and then during season 5 or at the start of season 5, it's a flashback, and it's like 10,000 years before, and we're like, oh no, this has been going on forever, and this isn't just new. This isn't just the last 30 years of our characters. No, that this other thing has been waiting, lying dormant. And that's the thing that's happened in like loads of things that I like Buffy and various other things. So it's a cool trope that I like, and I think it's used really well here.
It's what I really like about this.
Yeah, they like place a cool importance on Batman or the Wayne family, and I like the idea of not this sort of chosen one thing, but flipped to make it more like a curse. So that's why them literally flipping the page and saying there's 52 dark universes doesn't bother me, because the comic has already sort of put his cards on the table. And it's like, we're taking this back and we're going to do some crazy stuff. But also, it feels as well not as weighty as some of the other comics. So that's why I was wondering where this fell in the continuity, because it doesn't feel like that much has happened.
Yeah, it's kind of, well, it's kind of hard to kind of place it. It fits into the continuity we've got going now, because it's going to intersect with certain Rebirth books, and the characters are going to play like kind of like little. There's going to be tie-ins with some of the Rebirth books, so it's what's happening now. But these characters, they don't change that drastically. It's not. These guys are timeless. It's not. I find this anyway sometimes, that I can put down a Batman book, and then I can come back to another Batman book that's, further down the timeline, and not have missed anything.
Yeah,
if you get me. And the great thing about this one as well, there's 2 one-shots that came before it, which are Dark Days the Forge and Dark Days the Casting. If you read those 2 one-shots, it kind of summarises and puts everything into context for you as well. So, I mean, as much as you say this first issue was great and you don't feel like you're missing anything anyway, if you do need a little bit of context, or if you do need a little bit of, like, you want to find out what's been happening or whatever, then if you read those 2 one-shots, you'll get a bit more sort of idea of what's going on. Yeah, a bit more background. Yeah, because that sets it up nicely. They do. I quite like those 2 books as well. And this is what I think is nice about this event, that it's all been set up nicely and it's all been put into place. It's not something that feels forced, like they're doing it because they feel they need to reset the universe or anything, because this doesn't feel like that at all. This just feels like something else.
Yeah, it feels like an excuse for them to just have some artistic freedom for once or something. Yeah, explore cool things about the characters that they wanted to, because as you were saying, they've been working on that New 52 run, and it feels like this is an opportunity to really sort of dig in, not just with Batman, but Batman's relationship with his family.
Yeah, exactly.
As in the Justice League.
Yes. And I guess it's probably like the first big crossover that I've been hyped about, as in big superhero crossover, like main superhero comics, Marvel, DC, etc., that I've been interested in since the New 52 Animal Man and Swamp Thing crossover, again with the New 52, which is basically the two of them going toe-to-toe with Anton Arcane. It's a crossover book called Rot World, where Anton Arcane has taken over the world in the future, and everything is based on rot and the power of rot, which is zombies, flies, that kind of stuff, things that are rotting, things that are dead, death. And it's basically everyone who's got a link to the green or the red, which are the forces of, well, the green is Swamp Thing, his ability to control plants and the forces of plants and things like that on Earth. The red is Animal Man, which is, animals, organic life and things like that. And, this is like the kingdom of the red, which is animals, things that have red blood. And the kingdom of the green, which is plants. And then there's the kingdom, the rot, basically, which is the death. And the forces are constantly vying for control over each other. And they're always looking to usurp the other one and take full control of the world. And it's about keeping balance and harmony. And Rot World is what would happen if Anton Arcane took over. And it's really great, actually, because it's people like Poison Ivy turning up because she's got an interest in the green and stuff like that. And it's really good. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I mean, this is like the first big thing I've been excited for since that. So yeah.
So with this then, because at the end of this issue, you get the checklist, and it's the limited series, the one-shots on all the times.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I hate crossovers.
Yeah.
So do you think I can survive reading just the Dark Knight's metal ones, and I guess the different Batman ones that pop up, like
the
Batman
one-shots.
Lost and
Hawkman
the One Who
Found
Laughs.
and all those.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, you can survive without the. I think there's a. Is it?
I don't need to read Suicide Squad and Green Arrow. And
No, you don't have to. No.
Teen Titans number 12.
Yeah, it's Teen Titans and Green Arrow, isn't it? And those are the ones I was thinking.
There's a Nightwing one in there.
Nightwing
as well.
one. Yeah, no, you don't.
Flash.
Don't have to. I think you can survive without those.
Can I just read the ones with Batman or Dark in the title?
Yeah. You could get away with just reading those, but the other ones provide a little bit of sort of side story, like because you got that bit in this comic where Batman's like, okay, scramble the family because there's a big mountain appeared in Gotham and shit's going down. So those other comics will deal with how they deal with what's happening in Gotham. I guess they're the Gotham Resistance. They're going to deal with. They're gonna deal with the human element of it, and Batman's gonna be Batman and deal with the big threat.
That's cool.
I think is the idea of it. So yeah, it's like kind of like the kind of like the disaster relief comics, I guess they'll be. But yeah, so very good comic, Dark Knights. Looking forward to the rest of it. Onwards to the next one. Another DC book, Mr. Miracle, the revival of one of Jack Kirby's characters, one of his New Gods. What did you reckon to this, Leon? Because I read this and instantly thought Leon's going to like this.
Well, my knowledge and experience of Mr. Miracle is quite low. I've always been that's the thing. One of my comic book shames, where I know more about it intellectually than actually have read it, is Kirby's New God stuff.
Yeah,
and they've always been on my list, like his classic runs back then, to go back and give them a read, and it's constantly on my list, and I never get around to doing it, and it forever lies on my list. So when you recommended this one and said it was a very, very Leon book, I thought, okay, this is cool, because I'm expecting like New Gods to be referencing like characters from then and that was very much a time where Kirby was going very sort of acid trip, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Very esoteric. So I was expecting a modern take on that, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But what I got, man, is it is esoteric and impressionist in ways, but man, it's so much more. It's so much more than just being the sort of Kirby hat tip I was expecting. It's really like deep and dark, but also it plays like, not quite Lynchian, but you know what I mean. It's,
yeah.
You're on this weird trip through this like sad character's life, and you're in his head, but you don't really know where his head is.
You don't know whereabouts in his head you are either.
Yeah. You don't know what's real, what's not, and none of the craziness is telegraphed. So it has this constant unsettling, not misery, but this underlying just
dread.
Yeah, dread, but also like sadness and sort of detachment, because there are like big comic booky events, especially how this comic ends.
Yeah.
That okay, this is the thrust of the series, but that doesn't feel like the thrust of the series. The thrust of the series feels like all this crazy monologues and just pages of him, not explicitly, but him sort of dealing with like his life, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
And I think the cover itself speaks volumes.
Yeah,
because Mr. Miracle. Long story.
Gives some background. Yeah.
Long story short, Mr. Miracle is. Where do I start with this? He's the world's.
What was his role?
He's the world's greatest escape artist. And he's one of the New Gods, one of Jack Kirby's New Gods. He is High Father is his dad's, and High Father rules New Genesis, which is the world that he comes from, which is kind of like the world that's at war with Apocalypse. And if you like the old New God, I've not read tons and tons of this stuff. I'm not massively well versed in the New God stuff, but I think Scott was raised on Apocalypse,
which is Superman bad guy Darkseid's planet.
Scott was raised by on Apocalypse by Darkseid.
Yeah.
And Orion is Apocalypse's son, and he ended up going and staying with High Father, and it's all to do with that. So it basically he endured horrible torture and brainwashing and things like that on the planet Apocalypse is the idea. But he came to Earth. He escaped. He came to Earth with Big Barda, who is his. I think they're married in this book.
Yeah, it feels that way.
Yeah. And he's on Earth. He basically took the identity of the world's greatest escape artist, Mr. Miracle, and he's been doing these tricks for some time now. Escapes everything, and he seems to have fallen into this kind of like this. It just feels bleak, really, really bleak, and I don't know if it's going to deal with his past trauma or something, and bring that to the fore as to why he feels how he feels. But the one thing that he's never escaped is death, and he has this. I don't know if he has this desire to attempt to escape death, or if it's something that he almost doesn't want to escape. Like he wants something he can't escape from, so why not try death?
Well, it feels like someone trying to deal with like purpose. It feels like it's dealing with purpose and his place, and trying to get a greater understanding of his raison d'etre, because he feels very lost. And it opens with that really cool story, which is drawn so well, and that's one thing that's leading on to like the storytelling, like the writing and the art together is so. It's hard to explain, but it so perfectly tells this story without any gimmicks.
Yeah, I know. It really perfectly conveys the bleakness,
because it has that for the most part. It has that Watchmen-esque 9-panel structure.
Yeah,
on each page.
Yeah,
and at an increasing level as you get through the book, one or two of those panels start to just say Dark Side is, and you have no reference for what that is or what's going on.
Yeah.
But you have that and other weird, subtle things going on. So, like, I'm not going to go into any story details, but there's a part later on where he's talking to an old friend, and in the artwork, over the character's eyes, it's like tape, but it feels like it's in the texture.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that whole redacted tape, but it's not black. Instead, it's the color of the art. But there's all types of just weird, unsettling things in the art which help sort of push and structure. And
the writer is actually a bit of a master at this kind of stuff, because I don't know, are you familiar with the Vision, the recent Vision comics?
The family Vision.
Yeah, that's Tom King as well.
Yeah,
and I
could feel some of that.
That's got the same kind of, okay, something's on fire in the corner, but we're just gonna let that go, and just try and be normal. Try and be normal while something's on fire in the corner, kind of thing, you know.
I mean, that's a great. I've read the first trade of that, and that's amazing.
It is amazing, isn't it? It's great.
Yeah, and this very much feels like not even an extension, but like an evolutionary step from that, in the sense that by going to the well on this character who has this sort of dark history, is able to sort of dig into some meaty themes without the comic feeling like hard work.
Yeah.
Because all the stuff we're saying, it's bleak, dark, underlying it is, but don't let that put you off, as in this is going to be some grey depression book, because it's a colourful, expansive and expressive book that it knocks you off and makes you feel unsettled, but not in the way that, I don't know who this person is, where's the message from the editor. Instead it's more of a case of what's real and what isn't.
It puts you off kilter, but it puts you off kilter in a nice way. And the cover, I was going to describe the cover itself, because it's almost like he's on show to be dissected by the crowd.
Yeah.
As the cover is him standing trapped in some kind of, seemingly inescapable device, chained, bound, clamped, in front of a red curtain, with the crowd sort of looking on, waiting for him to do his tricks. And it's like he's kind of... You get that kind of dead eyes in a glass box on show thing out of it, which is kind of the tone of the whole book, really.
Yeah,
and I love it.
And it'll just jump to sort of different styles.
Yeah.
But there's like a TV interview part.
I love that bit, the TV interview,
which has like static going through. And like I was saying, none of it feels like gimmicks. All of it feels in service of sort of pushing us in through the story. And there's so many recurring lines and themes going throughout. It's such a good issue 1, and it's annoying that I read this now,
because now you're going to keep reading it. No,
I can't wait for the trade. I can't, because I need to like follow this.
First, final word on this, I think, is going to be Fight Club. Final 2 words, because it for me, it's got that kind of mood about it, where you don't quite. I mean, we all know what Fight Club is. Everyone knows the way Fight Club ends. Everyone knows what's going on in Fight Club. But it's got that kind of mood about it where you don't know, as you were saying at the beginning, you don't know whereabouts in this guy's head you are. You don't know what's real and what's not, and things like that. So
yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah. Moving on from Mr. Miracle, another comic, which quite a bit to unpack in this one as well. Genius Cartel. Now, I didn't know, actually, shame on me, but I didn't know until probably half an hour before recording this episode that this is series 2 of the comic Genius. I thought Genius Cartel was a new thing, but it's not. There was a previous one, simply called Genius, and so the events in the first comics that lead up to where we are with this issue that we've read deal with a young girl uniting the gangs of LA in order to take over and separate LA from the United States and make it like a separate sovereign nation, I think is the idea.
And that's in response to police brutality and general systemic racism. In response to
racism, the LAPD, police brutality, and that kind of stuff. And she's just sort of taken a stance. She's like, you know what, enough's enough. She's united the gangs of LA, and they kind of go to war with the LAPD. Now, in this comic, we're at the end of that. It's happened, it's over. But what they've done is they've given her an option. She either gets executed or she becomes part of a government program, because she is a genius, as the title infers. She's a almost unrivaled strategist
and tactician,
yeah, and with military precision. The only way that they had to come to an agreement in order to get her to step down. It's not like she lost the battle of the war for LA. They had to come to an agreement with her. They had to meet some terms, to actually get her to step down, which I think is pretty cool. But anyway, she ends up at this place called the Madrasa Institute, which is where they're training people to run military ops and things like that, and they're basically trying to train super soldiers, super smart soldiers, I guess, people with exceptional mental ability, or and she's like top of the class, but she's got a real how would you put it? A real.
I mean, historically, it'd be put as having an attitude problem.
Not an attitude problem. No, that's not the word I was looking for. What do you call it?
Well, from what I say of that, because she doesn't really respect authority in that way. Yeah. But it's also something that often gets pinned on, like black females as well. But what they've done really interestingly with that is that it's just because she's 2 steps ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the thing I'm looking for, the thing that kind of worries them, is the fact that she doesn't care. She'll do whatever is necessary in order to get the required to get to the required ending, basically.
Yeah.
And I still can't find the word I was looking for. What do you call someone? A sociopath?
Well, that's what someone thinks she is, isn't it?
Yeah. So she's got like a sociopathic streak.
As in, she has no actual real connections with
anyone.
Other people.
Yeah, no. She's
just goal-orientated.
Exactly, willing to sacrifice anyone and anything. But we don't know if that's entirely true. Because it does come off that way sometimes, but you don't know if there's something else there. I mean, especially towards the end of this book, you don't know if she's just putting a front on or what. But Yeah, I really enjoyed this first issue. I mean, I went into it not knowing there was a history here. You know, I just thought this bit at the beginning of the book, I thought that was where it started.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, but, you know, obviously there's you know, some previous to read there, so there's some homework for both of us. But yeah, no, I'm quite. I like that. I like being able to pick up a book and just jump straight into it without worrying about the past of things. This is like, if you want to jump in on point, this is like the how do I? This is the. Oh, it's another word that's on the tip of my tongue. I keep losing words. Words just fall out. This is the archetype for jumping on points. This is what people should look to when they want to build a jumping on point.
It's definitely good, and like for someone like me, I get to have my cake and eat it because, yeah, I've drawn this new story that seems very interesting and has a good hook at the end. But also, while I'm waiting now, I can track down the first because, like when you recommended it to me, I thought it was genius Cartel, and I was wondering why the Cartel was fonted differently.
Yeah,
and now I know that it's volume 2. I was wondering why, how the sort of montage at the beginning.
Yeah,
I thought it was so well thought out and so well illustrated that I was thinking, like, wow, they're not even going to show us the siege for LA, but it seems like they've really like dug in and had a proper deep history with it, and like you could have a whole comic on it, and apparently
you do, yeah. Apparently there's a whole trade about it. So,
but that's like most of my notes are based on the fact of me thinking this was the number one. But yeah. I mean, a lot of them still stand true because I really liked how it seems like a cool team here because you have the writers. You got like Mark Bernardin and Adam Freeman.
Yeah.
Who I believe worked together before. On the art, you have Rossi Camper, and the colours are Brad Simpson. And I think the team do a lot of good in terms of character design.
Yeah.
I think Destiny, the lead character, I think she looks really cool. It's quite a striking character, like cool braids, but doesn't come off as over-sexualized in any way, which is often the thing with like female protagonist characters. So I thought that's pretty cool. I like the use of like the history and like Black Lives Matters being used as an anchor, but not feeling forced. It doesn't feel like, oh, buzzword, or oh, this is hot in the news right now, let's do this.
Yeah.
Instead it feels like a good sort of launching pad for this type of story and what you would do with this type of character. And I really like how with this, you're not just dealing with, like, it's not just Kingsman. Like, it's not just, oh, she's been recruited and she's really smart and awesome and everything.
Yeah.
Instead, it's, okay, we've got someone who we've made an unholy alliance with, who's insanely smart.
Yeah.
How do we control her?
She's fucking dangerous, is what she is. Yeah. No, I
so
love it.
I think that's really cool. And I do love that she's rebellious, but she's not grating. As I was saying earlier, she's just ahead of the curve. She's 2 steps ahead.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite cool because you can easily have this like sort of know-it-all character come off as really annoying, but instead it's more a case of I can see through your crap. Like,
yeah, instantly she just knows already. Like it's, you know, I'm hooked. I want to see what happens next. I want to see what she's going to do because she's got a plan. She's not going to stay there. She's, you know, something's going to happen and she's going to go rogue or something.
Yeah, and I love the use of the quotes at the beginning, like playing off the Einstein quote about genius against the Holbrook Jackson one of genius is initiative on fire.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. Because she's kind of a combination of the two of them. Both of those quotes describe her.
Yeah, and it's cool how in this instance it feels like she's genius to survive. Like it feels like she's not just some know-it-all, but instead she's this great tactician because she uses it to survive. And it makes me interested to see what the arc was of the previous volume, because I'd like to see how she got to this spot.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and read that for sure. So yeah, it's a really good sci-fi military thriller, and I urge you to go out and read it because I think it's fantastic. And if you, go back and read the previous bit first, because it's kind of spoiled any kind of some comments and thoughts that I had on it, because now knowing half an hour before recording this show, now knowing that there was a previous lump of comics to go with it, it's like, oh, I can't. Well, yeah, but yeah, go back and read the previous and definitely catch up and read this because it's great. Or even just jump in and read this because it kind of summarises it. It's a good jumping on point anyway. I mean, like me and Leon have just described to you, you don't feel like you have to have read anything to enjoy this comic. So the next two, I guess, are ones that I've read, Leon hasn't. Ones I wanted to talk about, we've got Galaktikon, number 1. Now, this is a comic book based on an album, music, written by a man named Brendon Small, who is your guy behind Death Clock, Metalocalypse. He is great. I love his music. He's it's always infused with it's kind of always a little bit tongue in cheek, like the way he the way he writes his lyrics and stuff. It's not, you know.
Oh, hold on. This is the same Brendon Small who created Home Movie.
That's him.
Cartoon that I love.
Yeah, this is the guy.
I didn't know he did music.
yeah. Do you ever watched Death Clock, Metalocalypse?
Yeah, I saw bits and bobs of that. That was coming around while I was bouncing off of Adult Swim.
All the music's him. So, and he's done this album called Galaktikon, which is a concept album about a galactic hero named Triton who is having a bad time going through a divorce. And it's space opera, punk, sci-fi, real stuff. Like, you know, the way the music is fantastic. I've been listening to it while I was on holiday. I had the album downloaded, and I was sitting and listening to that in my sort of like downtime while I was on holiday, traveling between places and things. And the comic itself, this comic is based on the first album. There's a second album coming out this Friday, the 25th, the Galaktikon 2. This is all based on the first album, though, this comic. And the book opens, and this guy Triton is a bit of an asshole. Turns out his wife, who is like a galactic fashionista, blogger and journalist, who met him by, you know, covering the stories of when he's thwarted like huge evil monsters and stuff, and kind of gotten into trouble, and he's saved her a few times. She's divorcing him because apparently he never took the helmet off around her at home. He always kept his helmet on. He's got like this cool space helmet thing that he always keeps. Apparently he always kept it on, never took it off. And he got caught sending dick pics to a apparently underage stripper on another planet. But she's only technically underage because this planet's bigger and takes longer to go around the sun or something. So technically, she's 18 by the years on the planet that he's from, but on her planet, she's still only 17 or something like that. But yeah, he sent dick pics and he got caught sending dick pics, and his dick pics got leaked. And the book opens with him sitting in a bar with his divorce lawyer and his robot, called T1TIS. I think it's T1TIS. It was, just call him Tits. Sitting in a bar, and he's getting absolutely smashed, and it's like he's about to go to his divorce hearing, and he's like, "Oh, another drink," and he basically goes to his divorce hearing smashed, which I think is brilliant. And he loses everything. He loses his condo fortress. He loses everything.
Sounds brutal.
Yeah, it's absolutely brutal, but it's also very true. And I just love the fact that in this book they have a whole planet devoted to divorce mediation. And it's, I don't know, if you've seen people going through divorce and like, you know, the way people deal with things and stuff like that, and people know they've done something wrong, but maybe they're getting punished, you know, they're getting punished for it, and the guy's hitting rock bottom, and it's, you know, it's funny at the same time because they managed to infuse a lot of comedy in it. I really enjoyed this first book, I really did, and the artwork has got this kind of like album sleeve quality about it, while still being, you know, great comic art and very cartoony. I like the fact that it's got this kind of like this album sleeve thing, this extreme rock punk album sleeve thing going on. Little bits just kind of like creeping in there, which I think is really cool. A little bit of, you know, roughness, a little bit of crust to it, which is really nice.
Is the humour like in a similar vein to his previous work?
I'm not massively familiar with anything outside of Metalocalypse that this guy's done. I mean, yeah, I guess it's a similar kind of tone to Metalocalypse, from what I've seen of Metalocalypse. But I'm not massively familiar with home movies and things like that, not like you will be.
Well, so, it's more of the case of like, for his stuff, it's sort of like laughs gained, but from sort of just the depressing mediocrity of life. It's not big. It's not big punchlines. Instead, it's just situations where you just like.
That's it. Ooh. You've got this. That's it, because you've got this wonderful galactic world that he's built with these alien races and things like that, and he's done something as normal as having this guy get divorced and have that be the main line of the book. You know, this guy's like a galactic hero. He's saved planets. He's beaten huge alien warlords and stuff like that, but we're following him through his divorce. So, but one of the really interesting things about this book as well that I thought was amazing, and now I'm sorry that I can't play guitar. I might have to get my brother to play these out and try and record them so I can listen to them. It's the robot speaks via guitar tabs.
Okay.
And there's guidelines for how to set up your guitars and your various effects pedals and things like that. So that when you play the tabs, this guy speaks, you play the tabs and it sounds like robot voice. So you play out what he's saying.
That's cool.
Yeah, which I thought was a really nice touch. Being as it's a musical book anyway, I thought that was a really nice touch. And it's reminds me of the Guar comic that I've been reading, but obviously way less extreme and way less vulgar and over the top. Yeah. And it's great fun escapism, and like you said, it's comedy in the mediocre and the mundane. In this huge galactic buffet of a setting, you got all the comedy is in the mediocre and the mundane, which I really like. I think it's great. And I'd recommend it to anyone. If you can find issue 1, go out and read it. Listen to it. In fact, buy the albums. I think I'm going to buy number 2 on Friday when that drops, because I really enjoyed the first one. I really like the music. It's great. It's it's kind of like heavy metal opera. Kind of feels like it's got like this rock opera vibe, but it's heavy metal. You know, because it's a concept album and it's got a story to tell.
Yeah.
So I guess I can imagine stage stars in these costumes, these like sci-fi outfits, just belting it out over these like people smashing guitars. It's great. The next one, the last one that I wanted to talk about was Redlands, which I've been very excited about, and I've mentioned before on this podcast. I've been excited about it. This is a book concerning occult, horror, and witches. You've got this little sleepy town that is run by we're going to call them asshole police force. It's I think this is set in the 70s, I believe. Redlands, Florida, 1977. And these cops they're losing control of the town, and the book opens with the police seem to be under siege in the police station, and before you know that they're not nice people, you're like, okay, so police under siege, dark forces and things like that, and you think, am I supposed to root for the cops? And then you see it and you're like, okay, I'm not supposed to root for the cops. This is amazing, because you're actually rooting for the witches, and they're actually the dark magic and the demons and everything else. It's like it turns it on its head because they're actually the good guys. The police have captured these witches and they've tried to lynch them, which has gone horribly wrong. Trees on fire. They're under siege from these three women, this coven, and the first book, it follows them getting picked off one by one inside the station, and the witches ultimately take over the town. So where it will go from there, I don't know, but they're now in charge, and it's a really, really good at putting forward urgency and claustrophobic horror. Like the way the artwork is, it's just like it's got this beautiful urgency and abrasiveness about it. The way it's drawn and the way it scratches at you when you look at it, it just feels you can feel it. You can feel what's going on in that. You can feel their fear in the station. Yeah. The way the lighting is. The way they've chosen to ink it with the lighting and stuff, it's very dark, and it's lit entirely by the fire that's going on outside the station in places, and it's just tones of orange and brown and red, kind of Halloweeny, and I've been excited about this for some time because I like my horror books, I like my occult stuff, and I think this is fantastic. And the way this one is one that I was going to pick up, but I didn't get around to reading the issue this week, so I'll probably talk about issue 1 on our next episode. Yeah, no, definitely, yeah, because it's something that I can see you enjoying. There's a great bit at the back of the book as well. There's a great little quote thing which I won't read out because I think it's fantastic and you should buy the book to read it. But yeah, no, the writing's fantastic as well. It's so wonderful to see a horror book like this, and to be able to root for the to be rooting for the witches as well is great. I like it.
So this was done by
Sir Vanessa Del Rey and Jordie Bellaire.
Okay.
Yeah. With Clayton Cowles as well.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
This is an image. This is an image one.
It is an image book, yes. Yeah. Another image book, because we like our image books. So this and Genius Cartel is also an image book. Well,
it's like, is it like Top Cow and Image?
It's Top Cow via Image, yeah. Because you've got all these other ones that publish via Image.
Yeah.
It's just Top Cow via Image, I think. So yeah. Galaktikon, by the way, if you want to know, is Albatross, which are the people that brought you Narmwolf and Hillbilly.
Nice.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, Redlands. I've not got a lot to say about it because I think I've been that excited about it. It's, you know, it's something that's just, I can only say it's good in so many different ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah, before it gets redundant.
Before I get redundant and start repeating myself about how great this book is. And I don't want to spoil it too much because there's some great events in these pages, and it's just such a beautiful book, artwork-wise as well. You just need to read it.
The cover artwork looks amazing.
Yeah, the cover's fantastic with the snakes,
the hand and the snakes.
Yeah, no, it's so it's witches in the south. It's everything that I wanted it to be. We need more books about the occult, is what we need. If this and Winnebago Graveyard have taught anyone out there anything, it's, you know, we need more horror books about the occult. We need more horror movies about the occult. We don't have enough of that anymore. You know, they don't make them very much anymore. It seems to be something that seems to have fallen back a little bit.
Yeah, I think they're probably on the rise back, and I think not to go too deep into anything, but I think like good horror is usually not a reaction, but it often deals with a facet of the psychology of the current times.
Indeed,
and
yeah.
Our current times are generating some pretty good art, so because of how they are. So I think our sci-fi and horror for the next couple of years are going to be very interesting, and it wouldn't surprise me if we get a massive influx of more occult horror books.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm into it. Please. So yeah, that brings me to the end of my stack. Well, not my stack's not little, but that's the little stack next to the stack.
All right, man. You don't need to get your stack out. You know how big your stack is. The
stack of books I've read. It's depressing. Well, it's not depressing. It's beautiful, but it's also, you know, crushing. So,
and if you knock it over,
yeah. If I knock it over, I'll die. It's holding my house up at the moment. So, yeah, I mean, there's a few books, things coming out this week. This podcast is going to be released on the 23rd of the 8th, 2017. So, some of the books that we're excited for that are coming out this week. We've got Generation Gone number 2, Redneck number 5, Girl Scouts, Magic Socks number 4, Shirtless Bear Fighter number 3, and Moonstruck number 2. So Rahul wanted me to mention Girl Scouts and Moonstruck because those are two books that he's currently following. I mean, other things that are coming out this week that I'm excited about is Underwinter number 6, which I've been following, and I'm hoping this is going to give me some closure now because I'm getting to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I need to know what this is all about. What's going on in this crazy horror book I'm reading? If you like your Marvel comics, there's the Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man 3, which is really good. It's been really good so far. First 2 issues were great, so it's a great Spider-Man book. I think we've talked about that before. We have some questions today, don't we, Leon?
Yes, we do. Yes. Maybe we should ask the fun question and then the deep question.
Yeah, let's do the fun question first. So, well, they're both fun questions in a way. As in, you know, we like getting questions, but yeah, I mean, when we say fun question, we mean the question that's not so serious. So
well, I don't know what you're saying. This question's quite serious.
Yeah, this question's quite serious coming from Rahul. I think this is a pretty this is something that I'm certainly been wrestling with and grappling with since he asked it. So Rahul from his holidays has asked, I read the new Bill and Ted comic, and it made me think of the battle with death in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. I've also been reading Batman, Fusion Dance. If you had to pay for your to play for your life against Batman, what game would you choose, and why do you think it would help? So
that's a tough one.
It's a very hard one because, as I've been thinking, any game you play with Batman is going to end in Batman winning because he's a master strategist and that's what he does.
What would you do?
He prides himself on being 2 moves ahead of everyone.
How are you going to beat him?
Well, I don't think I could beat him unless there was another arm to this scenario. So what I'm going to propose is the Riddler has taken hostages across Gotham. And Batman is a prisoner of the Riddler. He's sitting at a table and he must play various games with various people. He has to lose or they die. But if he wins... if they win, he dies. So it's a catch 22 here. So if the hostages win, Batman, or one of Batman's family even, we'll say one of the Robins or something, will be executed. But if Batman wins, one of the hostage dies that lost. So, sorry, if the hostage wins, then Robin executed. Yeah, if Batman wins, the hostage is executed. Get it the right way around. So this is what I was thinking of. This is all I could think of. I couldn't think of what game I would play with him. I was just thinking about how it would work.
So you trick the Batman?
You'd have to. It's the only way. But even then...
He'd find a way.
He'd find a way.
There's something in the utility belt where he's thought about this before.
Well, it's not a utility belt even. It's probably because he's got, like, Alfred on comms and Alfred's feeding him chess strategies or something, you know. But then Bruce probably knows these chess strategies anyway because it's Bruce. Like, how do you beat this guy at anything? To pick a game that I'd play him at, I'm just going to plump for something like... let's go with... Kaplunk.
Kaplunk? You think you're going to beat the world's greatest detective at Kaplunk?
Well, it's less about being a detective and more about luck, really, isn't it? So,
yeah, but he's dealt with enemies who live with luck, rely on luck.
I know, but the most harmless thing I could think of was Kaplunk. It's like that. Okay, that's the only thing where neither of us. Well, trying to think of games where neither of us will have a tactical edge, and I thought Kaplunk's it. Because you're just pulling straws until marbles fall, right?
Yeah.
So that was the best thing I could come up with to put us on even playing field. But yeah, I mean, I had this whole Riddler scenario going off in my head the whole time as well. So, or either that, or Batman versus the Riddler, and every time Batman loses a chess piece or something, Riddler tries to execute someone, and Robin or Nightwing gets there just in time to stop from happening because that's what Batman would do. I don't know. What do you reckon? What would your game be?
This is Batman. Like, he's gonna win whatever happens. So you just have to go savage. So I'm sorry. For me, it would be like Batarang archery. So throwing the little the bat-shaped ninja stars at targets.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, oh, but how can you beat Batman? He's like going to have epic accuracy. He's going to hit the target every time. No. I control these targets. On each target is a picture of him with his family, his parents.
Oh, you're going to put Thomas and Martha Wayne on each target. That's something... That's dark.
Does Bruce have the mental capacity to be able to deal with that? The mental fortitude to be able to throw a batarang into his father's face? I don't think so.
So what we're saying is we have to become supervillains.
Yeah, basically, like, if comics have taught me anything, is that if you wanna win these crazy hijinks, you've got to go full evil. So
basically, what we're talking about is that we'd have to become part of his rogues gallery in order to stand a chance.
I would love to be one of Batman's rogues. The honour of joining the best rogues gallery in comics would be It'd be amazing.
Yeah, joining Batman. Other ideas I had, games that his other members of his Rogues Gallery might play with him. I think Two-Face would love a game of Othello.
Yeah.
And I think that the Penguin is quite partial to Monopoly. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I could see Cobblepot being down with that.
Yeah.
Which piece?
Oh,
it had to be the top hat, really.
Yeah, clearly the top hat. He'd have
unless
to be the top hat.
Mad Hat is playing, then
no, he'd be the top hat, and Batman be the sports car.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because it'd just be the two of them. But yeah, those are the
another harsh game actually that you could do. This one's even worse than the one before.
Yeah,
is a drinking game. Me and Bruce sat on the sofa.
You think you can outdrink the Bat?
Yes, but what I've done is put on the movies Batman and Robin and Suicide Squad. And anytime you want to facepalm, anytime something facepalm worthy happens on screen, you have to take a shot.
Oh my god.
He ain't beating me. He ain't beating me.
All the way through Batman and Robin?
He ain't beating me.
You get all the way through Batman and Robin without putting your head in your hands once.
No, I mean, Batman's been up against some crazy stuff, but I don't think he's prepared for
his own films.
Double whammy of that.
His own back catalogue. You could finish him off with Bruce Carey's Riddler performance.
I think...
Bruce Carey? Jim Carrey. Bruce on the brain, man.
Jim Carrey's the best thing in that movie.
Yeah.
But I think these games would cause Batman to break his rule and kill me, so...
You think? Yeah.
It's dangerous.
Probably.
Dancing with the Devil in the pale moonlight, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, no, he'd do his, like, killing you without killing you thing, where he just, like...
Not going to save me.
Yeah, washes his hands of it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. You know, it's like, well, it's your fault this happened, and washes his hands of it kind of thing. Like, you fell out of the window, and I just chose not to catch you.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, I think we've answered that one quite...
We've given it a lot more thought than it deserves.
A lot more thought than we needed to, I think. On to the next email, which is the email that we got, which is the question, which is quite a thought-provoking question, a very good question, actually. I quite like this question. It's a question from James. James sent us a question previously.
People should put where they're from as well.
Yeah. People should tell us where they're from, like the old days with when you used to send questions and things to CITV or whatever
via postcard.
Yeah, on a stamped address envelope, stamped address postcard envelope, whatever. So James says, "Hi guys, I've been thinking about the hashtag Make My Milkshake, which you mentioned in the last podcast, and I'm wondering if this is just an unfortunate symptom of how the industry treats female characters. A couple of years back, Milo Manara was widely criticised for his over-sexualised Spider-Woman cover, but many female heroes are still wearing the skimpiest of outfits, while others are fridged as a lazy plot device, which we have touched on before on this podcast. Marvel has created a number of interesting female heroes over the years, but it seems to be very reluctant to have them headlining at the cinema. Scarlett Johansson has played Black Widow in 5 films over 7 years, but now 5 films over 7 years now, but despite being the most high-profile female hero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, still doesn't appear to be any plans to give her own movie, which we also think is a crying shame, I think. At the moment, it's looking like Marvel Studios' first headlining female hero in the cinema will be Captain Marvel in 2019. DC has recently had great success with the Wonder Woman film, which shows there is a demand for strong leading ladies at the cinema. Do you feel that the industry is creating a more inclusive fan culture, or is it inadvertently creating a misogynistic one? If so, how would you go about changing it? Also, have you noticed any differences in how Marvel and DC and Image portray women? Thanks, James." So, there's a lot to unpack there.
There is. It's quite a meaty question. Thank you.
It is. It is.
I think the best way to tackle it is just to go answer the questions he's put in terms of the points at the end. So, I mean, do we feel the industry is creating a more inclusive culture, or do you think it's inadvertently creating a misogynistic one? I think that it's quite complicated, that one, but I wouldn't say it's creating. I think in terms of fan culture, historically, a lot of this stuff, and when we say fan culture, we're talking comics, video games, to a degree like action movies and cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons. A lot of these things were aimed historically at boys and teenage boys, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the target has been for decades and decades and decades. And the problem, or the sort of side effects you get with that, is that despite more and more evidence of people who don't fall into that bracket, namely girls and teenage girls, is that you have a lot of people not being served, which makes no sense for many reasons. On a cynical level, makes no sense financially because you're leaving money on the table, and a lot of the time with things like these, going back to like the Scarlett Johansson Black Widow not having her own film, is that the argument is always movies like Elektra and Catwoman, which are both terrible movies, they failed, so there's no audience who wants to pay.
But they didn't fail because the fact that they were female characters. They failed because they were awful films.
And also they were widely sort of part of an era where they were making films that people didn't really want.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
No one was asking for an Elektra film.
Elektra was a subpar Daredevil film. Bear in mind that Daredevil movie wasn't widely loved itself.
Yeah,
and let's not even talk about.
No, we're not going to talk about Halle Berry's Catwoman because that is an abomination. That film,
but it's striking because the Black Widow thing during that time, like in between her first taking the character and her like the most recent film we've had her in, Civil War, she starred in Luc Besson's. She headlined Luc Besson's Lucy, where she plays a character who pretty much has superpowers, and that movie did really well at the US box office. So it just shows you that. I mean, and obviously that had no background either, as in it wasn't part of an established IP.
No.
So it shows you that it's kind of BS, but we've seen this before. I mean, Marvel, owned by Disney, and they've been terrible even with like getting the action figures out. And I think all of this stems from old best practices.
Yeah, it's a symptom of the age of the industry, and like you said, it's where they've for so long things have been a certain way, and they've marketed things towards certain people, a certain group of people, which were the only people that were consuming it. But is that because it was marketed towards them, or is that because it was them in the beginning? We don't know, but it's been that way for so long that it's now part of some of this stuff that you're talking about with it's like these guys in charge are frightened almost to change their practices. Like they're scared because they're scared to lose money by doing that. I don't know.
Yeah, or unwilling to take the risk as much. But I mean, like going back to that question, I don't think the first part of it, I do feel that the industry is definitely taking these things on board, and I think we are, especially if you look at places like, say, Marvel Comics, and looking at the films as well now, I do think that they are trying to create a more inclusive fan culture, whether that be by gender or whether that be by race or whatever. Like I think that we're starting to see a lot more effort being put in there. I mean, you get a bit of kickback with that, like with the semi-recent Marvel stuff, say, with like certain people blaming the lower sales instead of blaming it on the endless crossovers they have constantly, which nobody seems to like, blaming it on diversity instead. But as you've seen, like a lot of these quote unquote diverse or inclusive comics are actually doing well and creating a good basis for a lot of their other wings, like toys and like the movies. So I do think each different studio, especially the big two, are making greater strides. And in terms of inadvertently creating ones, I don't think they are creating it actively, but more supporting and not pushing back as much. So I think historically, because of that risk-averse nature, they may have contributed to it, but I don't think they necessarily created one. So then from that to go on to the next question, which is, if so, how would you go about changing it? I mean, I don't think it's like an easy problem to be fixed because it's quite a big ship that needs turning. But I mean, the very least I think each of these studios could do, the very least, is hire more women writers and artists and editors and letterers.
Yeah.
Hire more women producers and screenwriters. And I mean, that goes for every group really that is underrepresented. Like people complain about that Manara comic because it was it was just ridiculous and it didn't really seem to have any bearing on actual anatomy. So like instead of coming off as sexy, which he wanted to, it just came across as just awkward. And we've got loads of female artists and stuff drawing the characters in like sexy outfits, because the thing is, like, sexy isn't a synonym for sexist. And I think there's a big difference between objectified characters in a particular way or characters who are comfortable and confident in their sort of sexuality and body. So I think I don't think there's a binary there, but I would definitely say the way that we can fix this is to have more people in the room, more people creating, and I think that more chances should be taken on books that don't specifically fit the old mold, because as much as people can say XYZ, this doesn't sell, it's not true. I mean, I think it was just this week, Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman film was past 800 million worldwide, which is the highest for any comic origin movie, man or woman.
Exactly. It's a fantastic film, and rightly so. It deserves it. I think, for me to answer this, do I feel the industry is creating a more inclusive fan culture? Yes, I feel they are trying very hard to. I mean, as you've said, Leon, they can do more by hiring more female or artists and writers and things like that. They could hire, more minority writers and artists and things just to get those people in the room, because as we've discussed before, the problem is sometimes that you've got a room full of people deciding on what should happen with certain characters who have no idea what it would be like to be those characters, because they've got nothing to do with that life or the way those people are.
And you often see ham-fisted attempts to tokenize certain characters based on very base representation and stereotypes, so which is also can be a problem as well. Yeah,
and you need these people in the room. You need women in the room. You need people of minorities in the room to be able to give, to be able to do this properly. And I think the industry is trying, but do I think I think it's something that's going to happen gradually? because, as you said, there's a lot of pushback from long-time fans, and the fact that the industry itself seems to be scared to put its feet in the water a little bit, because I don't know why, because there's definitely a market out there. We know there's a market out there. What are they scared of? We don't know. How would I go about change? Do I think that it's inadvertently creating a misogynistic fan culture? It's a difficult one to answer, because I don't think, if they are, they're not doing it on purpose. I think what they're doing is, when you say creating a misogynistic fan culture, are you talking about the way fans treat other fans? Because if you're talking about that, I think what's happening is, you've got these people that aren't happy with the way comics are going, that aren't happy with the fact that comics aren't just for them now, and that they have to share, and they seem to be pushing back in such a way that this I don't know if they're this relatively small group, well, this sort of like relatively small portion of the fan base of these studios, pushing back at what they see as an infringement on what was once their safe space. The space that was just for them. They see it as an infringement on a space that was... But it was never just for them. Comics were never just for them. Comics are and always will be for everybody. People just have to learn to share, I guess. How would I go about changing it? As I've already said, I'd hire more people that have experienced the things that these people want to write about. I'd hire more female writers and artists and things like that. And have you noticed any differences in how Marvel, DC or Image portray women? I think Image are the leaders in this at the moment. I don't know if you'd agree with me.
I'd say so, but yeah. I think that's down to them being... more indie in a way, and more having more creative controlled comics. They
are, and they're more they're better that way, because they seem to be like, well, if you don't like it, don't read it. We don't care. They don't seem to be trying to please people or pander to everyone in order to get readers and things, because Image will put out what they want to put out, and they will put out the right stuff, and they will do things properly, and they'll be like, okay, don't like it, don't read it. Whereas Marvel and DC will put something out, and they'll put something great out, and it will be really good. It will be something that is for everyone. It will be something that pushes boundaries, which we need, but then they will end up having to backtrack on it or something, because people will be angry about it. Certain collection of fans will be angry about it, and that will sort of like scare Marvel and DC a little bit about, kind of, what have we done? This fury. And it doesn't feel like they're willing to take the same kind of dive that Image do, which is a shame, because there's a lot that they could do if they did. I mean, they are doing it. They're gradually... The industry is changing gradually, and it's changing for the better, and it's what we want. But I don't think it's something that's going to happen very quick. And I think there's going to be a lot of... There's going to be a long, awkward phase before it peters out, and we have the harmony that we want, and comics are a game for everyone, and people aren't arguing over stuff that they...
Like milkshake.
Yeah. Why can't...
I mean, what I'll just say in terms of the end part of that, I think the difference we're seeing is happening at different paces in different elements of these three companies. So I think comic-wise, I think both DC and Marvel have been making greater strides to uplift some of their best sort of female writers and artists, and I think Marvel might have the edge there in recent years, but then DC made the Wonder Woman film, so I think at different levels they're operating on different playing fields. Because also you could argue as well that that Suicide Squad, that Harley is a lead character, which she is. So like and they've greenlit the Batgirl film. So it seems like their film arm seems to be making a more proactive push towards. And I mean, they have been working with some really good women writers and artists. So I think they've definitely been moving in a direction. And I think the difference is that you're going to get between Marvel, DC, and then Image on the other side is that Marvel, DC are big, historic, weighty franchise / like universes, which using loads of pre-established characters. And what we're getting more now is people taking more newer, modern, or nuanced takes on these characters who once would have been just eye candy, with really bad anatomy. Yeah. Whereas Image, I think because there's a lot more fresh new IP and new stories, I think Image have the one up there in terms of they portraying more multidimensional and more sort of rounded or human characters who aren't just eye candy or the spouse of a male main character. So I definitely think they've got the edge, and there's like so many different comics on there which deal with different elements of being a woman, and I think they have the edge. And I think ultimately, on a whole, I'm more positive about everything concerning the big three and further on, because I just think more people are coming in. And I think as we go through the years, whatever pushback we get, indie comics are still going to be around, and the audience are going to be demanding more and more representation of themselves, because the time is now.
Yeah, and the more we get this stuff out in the media, the more that this happens, the more that we get these writers, and the more that we get the books that we're after, the more that we get these stories, the more saturated the market becomes, the more accepting people will eventually become, and eventually it will, the pushback will subside. Is I think what we're looking for. It's going to get to an end point eventually, which is what we want, and I'm hopeful for that. I'm hopeful for that future, because comics are for everyone, as I keep saying. They should be for everyone. People need to learn to share, because that's the whole beauty of it, that there's something for everyone, and people shouldn't be hanging on to things, and people should be allowing people to reinvent stuff, and people should be allowing people to project themselves onto characters, to the whole point is you pick up that book and you can see through that character's eyes. Anyone should be able to do that. That shouldn't be limited to a certain group of people.
Amen.
And I think that will bring us to an end. So, thanks again, guys, for listening. That has been Ace Comicals. You can find us on Facebook under Ace Comicals. You can find us on Twitter at Ace Comicals. You can find us at www.acecomicals.com. You can find us on iTunes under Ace Comicals. You can find us on Pocket Casts, which is the app that we use, but pretty sure any other podcatcher app, or any other podcatcher that you use, you'll be able to find us. We're pretty available everywhere. You can find us on WordPress as well, which is acecomicals.wordpress.com. You can find me on Twitter at Batto, Battou. And Leon, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Leon Everett. And before I say goodbye, I just want to remember that I wanted to shout out Mitch Gerads, who does the art of Mr. Miracle. I didn't want to leave him out, but I forgot to mention him earlier. But he does some amazing stuff in that book, so check that book out.
Yes, indeed. We got your name in there because you're really good, and we love your book. We're sorry we didn't say your name earlier. We really are. And if you want to ask us a question, you can either ask us through Twitter, on the Twitter account. You can DM us, or you can ask us in a tweet, or you can forward us a question to our email address, which is acecomicals@gmail.com.
We've been getting some good questions.
Keep
them coming.
Yeah, keep the questions coming in. We need more. We love questions. We love answering them. It's a good challenge to have. So, yeah, thanks very much for listening, guys. Ace Comicals, over and out.